So this is Dwarf and Elf turn 4. What has happened here is that the miners, I believe, tried to charge and were out of range and has only moved up a little bit. I'm not entirely sure why they're not didn't move further up. I just don't remember at this point. The other large dwarf unit up by the lake did move forward, and the dwarven, the dwarves with the great axes, the rangers, charged the trolls. Now we knew that the trolls were exactly 6 inches away. So they fled, and I rolled a mighty 3 inches, which put them outside the dwarves' charge range, so they moved 3 inches. So the trolls are still 6 inches away, although now they are closer to the orcs. Their general rallied and turned to face the spiders down at the bottom, and if you see the goblins laying down next to my orcs there near the middle, that's where a lot of their shooting went. The cannon you'll see is turned and pointed at the goblin. There was also a fanatic right there. It used a grape shot and killed the fanatic but didn't get the giant. The giant has like 4 wounds on it, so had the grape shot hit the giant it could have finished it, but he did miss the giant with the grape shot. Up at the very top you'll see the Phoenix Guard have managed to flank charge the Night Goblins, and that was mostly because the Night Goblins squabbled and didn't charge the Phoenix Guard while they had the chance. And you can see what happened. The Phoenix Guard chased a mighty 5 or 6 inches, very few, but the Night Goblins only ran 1.5 inches and were run, or 2-3 inches were run down completely. So that's kind of where they sit. Up here, the elves once again held off the wolf riders, and no wounds either way. And what this is trying to show is that the night goblins, after all the shooting they took earlier, ran away from the shooting towards the miners. Okay, Orc and Goblin turn 5. On this turn, move elves. Now that fanatic ended up going through the bolt thrower and killed one of the crewmen when we distributed hits. We did not randomize the hits between them and the Wolf Riders, as the fanatic did not touch any of the Wolf Rider bases, but I'm still not certain if that was done correctly. On this turn, one of the few spells got off in the game, and it was Gork's Warpath, and it stomped 3 different units. Those dwarves up there, the other unit of dwarves further in, and the elven archers right here. And then it stepped on the giant. It did not quite kill the giant. But it was a pretty humorous spell with him. So I was imagining Gork stumbling around the table, randomly stamping on things. This shows the other side of the combat. The orc unit with the battle standard bearer was not able to charge the dwarves because the fleeing night goblins who failed to rally ended up right in front of them, setting up an interesting turn 5. The trolls were able to rally and are turned and looking at the boar boys and my shaman and orc lord, who are fighting the dwarven troops, and there was no combat results in that on this turn. On turn 5, the elves had a couple charges. On my turn 5, I had moved the spider riders up to shoot at the general. In respect, I think that was a mistake. I turned the giant to be able to charge the general. I was really trying to hem the general in so the giant can charge him on my turn 6. But for the elves and dwarves, the spiders lost combat, got broken away. They're out there in the middle. The night goblin unit finally ran away when the dwarven miners charged them. They fled past the orcs, and the miners have slammed into the orcs. This is showing after the turn of combat. The Phoenix Guard have charged the orc archers and managed to kill one of them, although there was no result there. and the dwarves killed the orc general, breaking the boar boys who fled. The dwarves followed them into the trolls, so that battle will happen during turn 6. We have a lot going on here at the end, and it's still really not clear who's winning. Here's a closer look at the mess over there near my back area. One of the bolt thrower crew had run away during an earlier turn and have finally come back to recrew the machine. Most of the losses that the miners took was the bolt throwers shooting into them from right next to them. This battle here is ongoing. I only did not run away after losing the fight against the miners because I had 2 rolls with the battle standard there. But I've got the fleeing remains of the boar unit. You see there's only 2 boars and the shaman left. And I don't know that those trolls are going to stop the dwarves, so these 2 dwarf units could meet in the middle on turn 6. Okay, here on Orc and Goblin turn 6, we had no animosity tests because there were no units of more than 5 orcs or goblins that weren't in combat. In fact, or running away. There were only 3 total. So, the giant charges the back of the elven general, and most other things failed to rally, and several of the things that failed to rally panicked and ran into a dwarf unit and were just so the fast cav do destroy the dwarven cannon. The giant runs up, gets a pickup, takes his 5th out of 6 wounds from the general, because the general struck first, and then throws the general into another unit, except for that there wasn't another unit to throw him into, so he threw him back down and took a wound, but he's still red. The orcs and fighting the miners got ran down. The trolls lost and got ran down, and the boar boys unit, which rallied, is now being attacked front and back from dwarves. The elves killed a couple of the archers there and took no wounds in return. So that leaves us to dwarf and elf turn 6, last turn of the game. They also had very little movement. The dwarven unit in the center that didn't end up getting into combat moves forward to contest table quarters. The archers and mage tried to pick off some of the remaining orc and goblin units that are running in the one little unit of 4 night goblins left that rallied. They had more than 4 when they rallied, but have had a few losses and to get them to panic in, but just missed. So we get to the fights. The remaining Phoenix Guard champion and the Phoenix Guard captain do a couple wounds, and the orcs finally fail their break test. They made like 2 or 3 of them, and they got run down. All 3, the shaman and both remaining boar boys, are just chopped apart by the dwarves. And the dwarven miners collected 4 standards, including the battle standard, over the course of this. The general once again missed the giant, and the giant was finally got to jump up and down and did something like 9 wounds to the general. So, Pyrrhic victory, but hey, something. And here we are at the end of the game. The orcs and goblins have 2 units of fast cav left. The smaller unit of spiders is running. A giant with 1 wound left, the Doom Diver, 4 Night Goblins, and the 2 Spear Chuckers. So, a bit left. But we have 3 units of dwarves left, the Elven Mage, the Elven Archers, and between the table quarters, which there was 1 each, the death of both generals, and the 4 standards tipped the battle, and orcs and goblins managed to get vanquished and broken, running away from the elves and dwarves. As a side note, the elves, having all of 6 models left on the table, probably lost whatever initial dispute brought the elves and dwarves together before the orcs joined. It was a fun battle. Like I said, I wasn't taking it too seriously. We were mostly using it to teach my son, and so in some ways I was kind of glad that the dwarven armies did so well. But I have never experienced exactly how much pain animosity tests and dwarven miners appearing in your backfield in turn 2. Those 2 combined for a lot of damage. But overall, very fun game. I hope you enjoyed the report.